Something quite extraordinary is happening in the Western world right now. It began decades ago, but now it's rippled out to all corners of the planet. I'm talking about a tidal wave of grassroots cultural renewal and a new kind of leader emerging right here in the Western world. So where has this new wave of culture come from? How has it spread so rapidly over the last few decades? And most importantly, who are the leaders at the heart of this emergence? So where has this new wave of cultural emergence come from? As we've become more and more of a global society and digital technology has allowed us to see into each other's lives across the world, people in the West have had this extraordinary opportunity to get a sense of other cultures and the lives of other people. Not just people living in modern day situations around the world, but also indigenous peoples, also those living on the land. We've been gifted this extraordinary opportunity to see directly into the lives of humans all over the world, directly into the day-to-day experience of all kinds of cultures. And I think in the process, people in the West have got a bit of a sense that there's something missing here, that there's another level of authenticity and humanness and depth that I think we're really thirsty for. Over the last few decades, the plant medicines have come out of the jungles, they've come out of the tribal scenarios that have been their traditional home, and they're actually spreading around the world. A lot of this is because the elders and the shamans of different traditions have heard the call of this moment on Earth and actually are sending the medicines out. Some cultures even have prophecies that speak to this moment in the world where the medicines find their way out of the jungles and out of the deserts into the modern world. And these prophecies, sometimes they're hundreds or thousands of years old. Whatever the case, these last few decades have seen an unprecedented rippling of plant medicines out across the world and the emergence of ceremony cultures, not just in the jungles or not just in the desert, but actually right here in the cities of the modern West. So the medicines are waking people up and tickling emergent culture all around the world. In a way, you could say that we're in a re-renaissance. What happened in the 60s really cracked something in the Western psyche. I think it was something that had been coming for a long, long time. And that was a real turning point moment actually for us as a civilization. And even though it didn't sustain through the decades that followed, it was depleted in some sense. We are riding a new wave of sorts, a re-renaissance, a continuation of what happened in the 1960s, but this time with strong spines, deep roots, belonging and identity, not just open arms. Some kind of grounded unity that I think will weather the storms better than what the previous free love movement did. There's also been an ongoing value shift over the last few decades where society in general is moving away from manufactured, synthetic, artificial, and beginning to value and look for that which is organic, that which is natural, that which is of nature. And I don't think there's any one place or any one industry where these values are coming from. I think they're emerging naturally through each individual. The core driver seems to be a collective remembering of what it is to be human, and our values naturally realigning to be in coherence with our humanity and life on Earth. And then there's been this absolutely unprecedented, wild and rapid increase in digital technologies over these last couple of decades that has entirely changed our social landscape. And because there's now so many screens and lights and all kinds of digital technology manifestations, there's a seesaw effect at play where people are actually turning back towards face-to-face interactions, back towards cultural exchanges, back to being in the flesh and blood with each other. And that's a natural thing that happens through time, through the ages, as particular technologies find their way into society and then become the dominant narrative. There's always a balancing, and I think there's a balancing going on right now where, because there's so much technology, there's also this other force emerging, a force of naturalness and a force of togetherness in person, not just in a digital space. Let's move on now to how this theme of emergent culture has been spreading like wildfire. The festivals have become access points to experience different cultural teachings, to get a taste of different traditions and lineages, to come together in community, to explore intimacy, to explore relating, to explore altered states. They've been essentially opportunities for people to come and get a taste of the greater narrative that's unfolding on Earth right now. And millions of people all around the world have actually had an opportunity to have a taste. And those little tastes have actually ended up becoming life paths for a lot of people. And they've moved from just tasting the thing to devoting their lives to it. With a lot of First Nations peoples bringing forward and offering to the wider tribes some of their sacred ancient technologies. I've already mentioned plant medicines, but it's not just about medicines and consumption. There's also ways of doing things. There's ways of ceremony and ways of holding sacred space and meeting the moment that have been passed down generation after generation. And these teachings are now finding their way out of, being held close to the chest in these particular cultures, and they're being offered quite freely around the world. This isn't for all First Nations peoples, but quite a few have really taken it upon themselves to be advocates for change and remembering in these times, and they've come forward to help the West remember who they are by passing on their own teachings in the hopes that there'll be a recalibration and a renewal here in the West. And social media has radically changed how information is shared between our human family. Once upon a time, it would take a couple of 100 or 1,000 years for new information or new ideas to kind of ripple around our human family to the far reaches of us all around the world. Now it can just take a couple of minutes sometimes, if not a couple of hours or a couple of days. Within a few days, ideas can spread all around the world. And so this has meant that emergent culture, emergent beauty, things that really touch the core of what is love, it's revealing itself a lot faster, and it's becoming a lot more obvious, actually. Because we're able to compare a lot more things, I think it's a lot easier to feel what is authentic and what is real. And culture, real culture, is always authentic and real and deeply human. And more than social media, we're still using word of mouth to get the word out to the tribes. And I think there's something about word of mouth that supports people to attune to something over years. A lot of times people begin by dipping their toes into cultural experiences or new ideas. And something about word of mouth and the relatability of friends sharing and the proximity of the person sharing it with you, sometimes that can help people to build trust quicker and to lean in sooner. And I'm witnessing firsthand a really powerful advocacy that's taking place in my wider communities as individuals invite others to particular pieces of the cultural landscape they haven't journeyed with yet, whether that be relational practices or intimacy or different ways of relating with the earth, different ceremonies. There's a really important advocacy happening that's face to face and friend to friend. And there's nothing more trust building than having a friend kind of invite you in. And there's few things that have us trusting something that's new, trusting new consciousness, something that's different to what we're used to, than a friend inviting us in and holding that space for a couple of seasons or even years while we begin to adjust and get ready to dive all the way in. So I'm seeing this firsthand throughout my communities, and it's a really powerful and beautiful thing, actually. So who are these leaders at the heart of the emergence? They are people who are fulfilling roles within society that's beyond transaction and beyond some kind of shallow ambition. They are culture bearers, and they are living in ways that feed naturalness, humanity, and community. And their lives are devoted to bringing back a forgotten quality of love and depth and presence to our human family. And perhaps most importantly, they're leaving behind shoulders for future generations to stand on. And what I mean by that is they're leaving behind legacy work. They're actually moving the cultural marker a little bit further forward so that the generations still to come have a bit more to work with as they become the leaders and dreamers of the world that comes next. There's another thing that they're all standing for in their own way as well, and that is a essential remembering of what it is to be human, or a ripening of our humanity, a maturing of our humanity. They'll all language it in different ways, but at the core of it is a holding point for growing up and remembering who we really are. And then, just like throughout history, there's particular individuals who deeply embody the things that are needed in that age. And right now, there are key humans all around the world who are examples for their communities, examples for those who are aware of them. Some of them might be teachers or leaders, or they could just be the witch down the road. But they're there, and they're devoted to the path of love, and they're devoted to this emergence of culture. Even though everyone has different takes, everyone has a different sense of what's needed and where it's all going to go. Their love and their embodiment and their standing for the thing is a part of the generational unfolding, and they've become pillars of light, really. They've become examples of what's possible and how we can be in this age, in these times, in our own lives. And they're radically inspirational, actually. For me, some of these figures have been Joanna Macy, Macartney, Shivam O'Brien, Lyla June, Sharon Blackie, Martin Shaw. I could probably go on for a couple of hours, actually, but these beings are really profound examples of what's possible, and they're holding point in their own way for quite a radical emergence in these times. These are beings who don't just talk about cultural emergence, they genuinely live it in their lives in their own way. And if all of that sounds like the kind of life and legacy that you're here to live, then this channel's for you. And I'd love to invite you to subscribe.